So there I was, Captain Jake Morrison, though everyone calls me Dipstick for reasons I prefer not to discuss, docking my beat-up cargo hauler at Zerion Station. And let me tell you, Zerion Station is what happens when you take every bad space cantina from every cheesy sci-fi movie and somehow make it worse. Think rusty metal, flickering lights, and the kind of smell that makes you question your life choices. Jake, I really think we should refuel and leave immediately, squeaked Zeph, my navigator. Picture a neon green jellyfish that learned to walk upright and developed chronic anxiety disorder. 3 eyes, all of which were currently darting around like pinballs, searching for threats that existed mostly in his overactive imagination. Relax, Zeph. What's the worst that could happen? Famous last words, right? I should probably get those tattooed somewhere visible as a warning to future me. We'd barely made it to the main corridor when Commander Vex came stomping over. 6 arms, built like a space tank, with enough military decorations to open his own metal shop. The kind of alien who probably polishes his laser rifle for fun. Human, he barked, which was apparently my name now. You will not venture beyond the inner system perimeter. Well, hello to you too, sunshine. And here I thought aliens were supposed to be polite. Vex's upper 2 arms crossed while his middle pair gestured dramatically. Show off. The Void Stalker hunts in the outer regions. Many ships have been lost, entire crews consumed. Consumed. I raised an eyebrow. What is this thing? A cosmic garbage disposal. The most lethal predator in known space, Vex continued, apparently immune to sarcasm. 15 meters of pure killing instinct. Claws that can shred titanium hull plating. Jaws that could crush your pathetic vessel like a tin can. Zeph's 3 eyes were now rotating independently, which happened when he was approaching maximum panic mode. Jake, perhaps we should listen to the nice commander. Nice. Vex's mandibles clicked with what I assumed was offense. The creature has terrorized this sector for decades. Vex pressed on. No weapon can harm it. No ship can outrun it. It appears from the void without warning and leaves only debris. Sounds like my ex-wife, I muttered. But with better table manners. Vex leaned in close enough that I could smell whatever passed for breath mints in his species. Spoiler alert, they don't work. Mock this warning at your peril, human. The Void Stalker shows no mercy. Right. Cosmic death monster. Got it. I waved him off. We'll just stick to the safe, boring parts of space where nothing interesting ever happens. As Vex stomped away, probably to intimidate some other poor traitor, Zeph's tentacles were practically vibrating with nervous energy. Jake, please tell me you're not thinking what I think you're thinking. Buddy, I'm not thinking anything. My brain is completely empty. That's what I'm afraid of. And that's when I spotted the bounty board. Because of course there was a bounty board. This is a space station, not a country club. The bounty board was your typical digital disaster, flickering between wanted posters like it was having an epileptic seizure. But there, right at the top in letters that practically screamed bad idea, was the Void Stalker. Bounty 50 million credits. 50 million credits. 50 million credits. That's buy your own planet and name it after yourself money. That's retire to a beach dimension and never work again. Money, that's tell Commander Vex exactly where he can stick his warnings. Money. Jake, Zeph whispered, his voice hitting frequencies that probably violated several noise ordinances. Jake, no, whatever you're thinking, the answer is no. I haven't even said anything yet. Your face is doing that thing. What thing? The thing it does right before you make a decision that gets us nearly killed. I grinned. Come on, Zeph. What's life without a little excitement? Longer, he squeaked. Life is longer without excitement. But I was already heading toward Griselda's bar, the kind of establishment where the drinks could strip paint and the bartender had seen more action than a war correspondent. Griselda herself was a sight to behold. 8 feet of scarred purple hide, 4 arms, and a disposition that made rabid Wolverine seem cuddly. What do you want, human? She growled, polishing a glass with what looked like sandpaper. Information about the Void Stalker. She stopped polishing. The entire bar went quiet. You could hear a pin drop, if pins made terrified whimpering sounds. You're either very brave or very stupid, Griselda said. I prefer creatively reckless. The beast dwells in the Crimson Nebula, feeds on dark energy. Some say it's older than the first star drives. Some say a lot of things. What do you say? She leaned across the bar. I say it killed my brother's crew last month. Found their ship floating empty. No signs of struggle, like they just vanished. How much for coordinates to the nebula? You can't kill it with conventional weapons. Trust me, others have tried. Who said anything about conventional? An hour later we were at Skitch's surplus, which was less military surplus, and more things that fell off the back of a transport. Skitch himself looked like a ferret that had been stretched to human proportions and given a severe caffeine addiction. You want to hunt what now? Skitch's voice cracked. The Void Stalker. I need gear. I got plasma rifles, sonic disruptors, molecular scramblers. What about that thing? I pointed to what looked like a glorified flashlight. That's an emergency beacon. Perfect. I'll take 3. Jake, Zeph interjected, his tentacles writhing in distress. Those are for calling for help, not hunting cosmic nightmares. Sometimes help comes in unexpected packages. We loaded up with supplies that would have made any sane person laugh. Emergency rations, basic medical kit, and enough flares to light up a small moon. Zeph kept muttering what I assumed were alien prayers, though they sounded more like grocery lists. By the 7 moons of Zaxstar, he whispered. We're actually going to do this. That's the spirit, buddy. Sort of. As we prepped the ship for departure, I could feel Zeph's 3 eyes boring into the back of my skull. Jake, what if Commander Vex is right? What if this thing really is as dangerous as everyone says? I fired up the engines, feeling that familiar thrill of impending adventure. Then we'll find out together. Besides, how dangerous could it really be? The answer, as we'd soon discover, was not dangerous in any way anyone expected. The Crimson Nebula looked exactly like what you'd expect from something called the Crimson Nebula. A swirling mass of red gas that screamed ominous space danger in 17 different languages. My ship's sensors were going haywire, beeping and chirping like a mechanical orchestra having a nervous breakdown. Jake, Zeph whispered. All 3 eyes pressed against the viewports. I'm detecting massive bio readings. Something big is out there. How big? Remember that time you said my cooking was catastrophically large? Bigger than that. Before I could respond, the ship shuddered. Not the good kind of shudder you get from a powerful engine, but the something just grabbed us kind that makes your insurance premiums skyrocket. Contact, I announced, trying to sound more confident than I felt. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the galaxy's most feared predator. What emerged from the crimson mist was indeed 15 meters of something. It had the basic shape of what ancient Earth mythology might have called a dragon, if dragons were made of living shadow and starlight. Massive head, powerful limbs, and yes, those claws that supposedly could shred titanium. Zeph made a sound that I'm pretty sure translates to "we're all going to die horribly." But here's the thing about being human. We're really bad at recognizing when we should be scared. Where everyone else saw a cosmic nightmare, I saw, all look at those eyes. What? The creature's head tilted to one side, and those supposedly terrifying orbs blinked slowly. Big, dark, curious eyes that reminded me of every puppy that had ever looked at me through a pet shop window. Jake, that thing could swallow our ship whole. Yeah, but look at how it's moving. It's not aggressive, it's curious. The Void Stalker drifted closer, moving with surprising grace for something the size of a small space station. Its massive head approached the viewport, and I swear those enormous eyes were studying us with what looked like genuine interest. It's beautiful, I breathed. It's terrifying, Zeph shrieked. It's the apex predator of known space. It's like a cosmic golden retriever. I did something that probably violated every first contact protocol ever written. I waved. Just a simple, friendly human wave. The creature's head pulled back slightly, then tilted the other direction. After a moment that felt like an eternity, one massive appendage moved in what could generously be called a wave back. Zeph's 3 eyes were now spinning in different directions. Did just wave at us? I think it did. Void Stalkers don't wave. They consume. They terrorize. They leave only debris. But the creature wasn't doing any of those things. Instead, it was floating there like it was waiting for something. Its tail, which was easily the length of our entire ship, swished back and forth in what looked suspiciously like excitement. Jake, please tell me you're not thinking of going outside. Okay, I won't tell you that, Jake. But I was already suiting up. Look, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking this is the part where I get dramatically eaten and learn a valuable lesson about hubris. But here's the thing about humans. Sometimes our complete inability to recognize danger is actually our greatest strength. I cycled through the airlock with nothing but my emergency beacon and what Zeph later described as weapons-grade stupidity. The Void Stalker watched my approach with those massive curious eyes. Hey there, big guy, I said over the comm, feeling ridiculous but committed to the bit. Beautiful day for floating in the cosmic void, isn't it? The creature's response was not what anyone expected. It made a sound that my suit's audio pickups translated as something between a whale song and a contented purr. Then, and I swear this is true, it nuzzled closer. 15 meters of supposedly lethal predator was trying to get pet. From inside the ship I could hear Zeph having what sounded like a complete mental breakdown in 3 different alien languages. But all I could think was how wrong everyone had been about this magnificent creature. "You're not a monster at all, are you?" I said, reaching out to touch what I assumed was its snout. "You're just lonely." The Void Stalker's purr grew louder, and its tail continued that happy swishing motion. That's when I realized the truth about the galaxy's most feared predator, and that's also when Commander Vex showed up. But first, let me tell you about the next 20 minutes, which were possibly the most surreal of my entire life. And I once accidentally married a sentient plant on Kepler 7, so that's saying something. The Void Stalker, which I had already mentally named Buddy, because I'm apparently incapable of taking anything seriously, was absolutely fascinated by me. It kept making these soft rumbling sounds that my suit translated as somewhere between contentment and curiosity. Picture the world's largest cat discovering a new favorite human. Jake Zeph's voice crackled through my comm. "Your vital signs are off the charts. Are you having a panic attack?" "Nope, that's excitement. This is incredible, Zeph. It's like it's trying to communicate. It's trying to decide which part of you to eat first." But Buddy wasn't showing any signs of wanting to eat me. Instead it was showing me things. It would drift away, then come back, like it wanted me to follow. When I activated my suit's thrusters to keep up, Buddy made what I can only describe as delighted chirping sounds. "Look at this," I breathed, following the creature deeper into the nebula. Buddy led me to what looked like a massive crystalline formation growing out of an asteroid. The crystals pulsed with the same soft light that seemed to emanate from Buddy's skin. "It's showing me its home," I told Zeph. "This isn't a hunting ground, it's a garden." Buddy's massive head nudged against my suit, gentle as a whisper. When I reached out to touch its snout, the creature's entire body seemed to shimmer with happiness. Its tail, which had been swishing contentedly, began wagging with enough force to create small gravitational waves. "Jake, you're petting the galaxy's most feared predator." "I'm petting the galaxy's most misunderstood creature." That's when Buddy decided to show me exactly why everyone was so afraid of it. The creature opened its massive jaws, revealing rows of teeth that could indeed shred titanium. But instead of using them to eat me, Buddy did something that made me laugh so hard I nearly depressurized my suit. It yawned. A massive universe-shaking yawn that sent ripples through the nebula. Then, with the satisfied expression of a dog that had just had a good stretch, Buddy settled down on the asteroid, and rested its enormous head on what passed for its paws. "It's tired," I said, still chuckling. "The galaxy's most feared predator just yawned and wants a nap." That can't be." But it got better. Buddy's terrifying claws, the ones that supposedly shredded hull plating, were actually being used to carefully arrange the crystalline formations around its resting spot. It was landscaping. The apex predator of known space was a cosmic gardener. "Zeph, I think I know why ships keep disappearing. Because it eats them. Because it collects them." I activated my suit's lights and swept the area. Sure enough, tucked behind various crystal formations were ships. Intact ships. Ships that had been carefully arranged like a child's toy collection. Some were clearly ancient. Others looked like they'd been placed there yesterday. "It's not destroying ships," I continued. "It's collecting them. Like a cosmic hoarder." Buddy lifted its massive head and looked at me with what I swear was pride. Then it gestured with one enormous claw toward a particularly shiny transport vessel that had been positioned to catch the nebula's light just right. "You like that one, don't you?" I said. "Good choice." "The hull work is fantastic." Buddy's purr grew louder, and it nudged me again. This time I understood what it wanted. It wanted me to see more of its collection. For the next few minutes, Buddy gave me the grand tour of what was essentially the galaxy's most impressive salvage yard. Ships from dozens of species, all arranged with an artist's eye for composition. Some were stacked like sculptures. Others were positioned to create intricate patterns when viewed from above. "The crews?" I asked, though I was pretty sure I knew the answer. "What happened to the crews?" Buddy made a soft whistling sound and gestured toward a section of the asteroid I hadn't noticed before. There, built into the rock itself, was what looked like a space station. A comfortable, well-lit space station with viewing ports and what appeared to be recreational facilities. "You built them a resort," I said, incredulous. "You're not eating the crews. You're giving them a luxury vacation." The creature's response was the equivalent of a cosmic shrug, like it was saying, "Well, what else was I supposed to do with them?" That's when my comm system lit up with incoming transmission alerts. Multiple ships, closing fast. Military ships, judging by the signal strength. "Jake?" Zeph's voice was tight with panic. "We've got company." Big, angry, heavily armed company. I looked at Buddy, who had gone very still. Those massive eyes were fixed on something beyond the nebula, and for the first time since I'd met it, the creature looked genuinely concerned. "They're here for you, aren't they, big guy?" Buddy made a low sound that didn't need translation. It was the sound of someone who had been misunderstood for far too long, and was tired of running from the consequences. "Well," I said, patting the creature's massive snout, "let's see if we can't clear up this little misunderstanding." Commander Vex's voice boomed across all frequencies. "Human vessel, you will retreat immediately. We are prepared to use lethal force to eliminate the threat." I looked at Buddy, who was watching me with those enormous trusting eyes. The galaxy's most feared predator was counting on a space trader named Dipstick to save it from a military fleet. "No pressure," I muttered, then opened a channel to the approaching ships. "Commander Vex, this is Captain Morrison. Before you start shooting, you might want to hear what I've discovered." "Human, you have 30 seconds to explain why you are consorting with that abomination before we reduce both of you to constituent atoms." I love how aliens always go straight to the atom-reducing threats. No small talk, no "how's the weather," just immediate vaporization. It's like they took a correspondence course in intimidation and graduated summa cum laude. "Well, Commander, funny story. Turns out your galaxy's most feared predator is actually running a 5-star resort and art gallery." The silence that followed was so profound I could hear Zeph's 3 hearts beating in different rhythms. Finally, Vex's voice crackled back. "Explain. The Void Stalker, who I've named Buddy because he's basically a cosmic golden retriever, doesn't eat ships. He collects them, and he doesn't consume crews, he gives them luxury accommodations." "Impossible. We have reports of ships being destroyed." "No, you have reports of ships disappearing. Completely different thing." I activated my suit's recording function and transmitted the footage of Buddy's ship collection. "Take a look for yourself, Commander. Does this look like the work of a bloodthirsty monster?" While Vex processed that information, Buddy was getting increasingly agitated. The creature kept looking between me and the approaching fleet, making soft whimpering sounds that broke my heart. Here was this magnificent being, terrified that the misunderstanding was about to get us all killed. "Easy, big guy," I said, patting Buddy's snout. "We're going to figure this out, Jake." Zeph's voice was barely a whisper. "There are 12 military cruisers out there. 12. Their combined firepower could crack a small moon. Then it's a good thing we're not planning to fight them." "We're not." "Nope, we're going to give them exactly what they want." Commander Vex's voice returned, and he sounded deeply confused. "Human, explain how a creature capable of collecting ships without triggering their defensive systems could be anything but a threat." "That's easy, Commander. The same way a dog can steal your sandwich without you noticing until it's too late. Buddy here isn't malicious, he's just really, really good at being sneaky." To demonstrate, I asked Buddy to show the fleet his collection method. The creature's eyes lit up with what I was beginning to recognize as enthusiasm. Buddy drifted away from the asteroid, moving through the nebula with a grace that seemed to defy physics. "Watch this," I transmitted to the fleet. "Buddy, show them how you collect ships." What happened next was like watching a master craftsman at work. Buddy's massive form seemed to phase partially out of normal space, becoming translucent. He moved through the nebula like a ghost, approaching one of the smaller military vessels without triggering a single proximity alarm. "Impossible," Vex breathed. "Our sensors show nothing." "That's because Buddy exists partially in subspace," I explained, making up the science as I went along. "He can phase in and out of normal reality. To him, collecting ships is like picking flowers. He doesn't understand that it scares people." Buddy gently nudged the military vessel with his snout, and the ship's crew started shouting in panic. But instead of being destroyed, the ship was simply moved. Buddy carefully positioned it next to another vessel in his collection, arranging them like pieces in a puzzle. "See?" I said. "He's not attacking, he's decorating." "But the missing crews," Vex insisted. "What of them?" "Oh, they're fine. Buddy, can you show the commander your resort?" The creature's entire demeanor changed. If I didn't know better, I'd say Buddy was proud. He led the fleet to the asteroid station, where lights began coming on throughout the complex. Through the viewing ports, we could see figures moving around inside. "Those are the missing crews," I explained. "Buddy's been taking care of them." My comm system suddenly exploded with transmissions, voices speaking in dozens of different languages, all saying essentially the same thing. "We're fine. We're having the time of our lives. The accommodations are incredible." One voice, speaking accented standard, came through clearly. Captain Vex, this is Captain Torres of the merchant vessel Prosperity. We've been here for 6 months, and it's been better than any vacation I've ever taken. This creature, it's like a cosmic concierge. Impossible, Vex repeated. But his voice had lost its edge. Commander, I said, here's what I think happened. Buddy here is basically a cosmic introvert, who got really good at collecting things. Ships kept flying through his neighborhood, so he started collecting them. But unlike most collectors, he felt responsible for the crews inside, so he built them a resort. And the reputation for being dangerous. Have you ever tried to explain to someone that their missing loved ones are actually on an unscheduled vacation with a giant space creature? It's a tough sell. I could hear Vex conferring with his officers, their voices a mixture of confusion and disbelief. Finally, he came back on the channel. Human, assuming your assessment is correct, what do you propose we do? That's easy, I said, grinning inside my helmet. We set up a tourist operation. What? Think about it, Commander. Buddy here has created the most unique vacation destination in the galaxy. Luxury accommodations, incredible views, and the personal attention of a cosmic artist. We could make a fortune. Buddy's head tilted in that curious way, and I could swear the creature was considering the proposal. Its tail began that happy swishing motion again. But first, I continued. We need to solve the communication problem. Buddy, would you like to be able to talk to people instead of just collecting them? The creature's response was immediate and enthusiastic. It nuzzled against my suit, and made a series of complex sounds that my translator couldn't parse. That's what I thought, I said. Zeph, fire up the universal translator array. Let's see if we can't give Buddy a voice. Jake Zeph's voice was odd. Are you seriously suggesting we turn the galaxy's most feared predator into a tourist attraction? I'm suggesting we turn the galaxy's most misunderstood artist into the most successful resort owner in known space. Commander Vex's voice was carefully controlled. And what makes you think this plan could possibly work? I looked at Buddy, who was watching the exchange with those enormous hopeful eyes. Around us, the crystalline formations pulsed with gentle light, and the carefully arranged ships created a vista that was genuinely breathtaking. Because, I said, everyone deserves a vacation. And Buddy here gives the best ones in the galaxy. The creature's purr was so loud it created gravitational waves that rocked the military fleet, and for the first time since I'd met him, Commander Vex actually laughed. Human, he said, you are either the most brilliant negotiator I've ever encountered, or the most dangerous lunatic in known space. Why not both? 3 months later, I was sitting in what had become known throughout the galaxy as Buddy's Cosmic Resort and Wellness Retreat, sipping something that tasted like liquid starlight and watching the most successful business launch in galactic history. The universal translator had worked better than anyone expected. Turns out, Buddy had been trying to communicate for decades, but his natural language operated on frequencies that most species' equipment couldn't detect. Once we bridged that gap, the real personality behind the Void Stalker emerged, and what a personality it was. Jake, my friend, Buddy's voice rumbled through the resort's comm system, somehow managing to sound like a combination of Morgan Freeman and a contented whale. The Zephyrian delegation has arrived for their team-building retreat. Should I arrange them in the Crystal Meditation Chamber or the Zero-Gravity Art Studio? Wherever makes them happiest, big guy, I called back, still marveling at how quickly we'd gone from cosmic nightmare to hospitality mogul. The transformation had been remarkable. Once Buddy could actually talk to his guests instead of just collecting them, word spread fast. Turns out, being personally curated by a cosmic entity who could read your emotional resonance and create custom experiences was exactly what the galaxy's stressed-out species needed. The Centaurians loved Buddy's ability to create perfect aurora displays tailored to their optical spectrum. The crystal-based lithoids were fascinated by his mineral gardens. The gas giant dwellers enjoyed floating through his subspace pocket dimensions, and everyone, absolutely everyone, was amazed by his ship collection, which had been rearranged into an interactive museum of galactic transportation history. This is incredible, said Dr. Melissa Hartwell, the human xenopsychologist who'd become Buddy's unofficial therapist and business consultant. In 3 months, he's gone from feared predator to the most sought-after vacation destination in 12 sectors. Supply and demand, I said, watching through the viewport as Buddy carefully positioned a new arrival, a luxury liner full of Andromedan tourists, into the perfect spot to catch the nebula's morning light show. Turns out, the galaxy was desperate for genuine personalized service. Zeph, who had somehow become Buddy's assistant manager despite still jumping every time the creature moved too quickly, was coordinating the daily activities schedule. Jake, Buddy wants to know if he can add a new wing to the resort. He's been working on something he calls a empathy enhancement chamber. What's that do? Near as I can tell, it lets different species experience emotions the way other species do. The early tests have been enlightening. Commander Vex, who had become the resort's head of security after retiring from the military, walked over with his daily report. The six-armed former soldier had adapted to civilian life with surprising enthusiasm, mainly because Buddy had given him the most comprehensive security system in the galaxy to manage. Daily report, Captain Morrison, Vex said, though his military bearing was somewhat undermined by the floral shirt Buddy had convinced him to wear. 0 security incidents, guest satisfaction rating holding steady at 97%, and 3 more species have submitted applications for cultural exchange programs. Only 97%, I raised an eyebrow. What's the complaint? The Rigelian ambassador thinks Buddy's morning wake-up calls are too gentle. Apparently their species prefers to be roused by something equivalent to a mild earthquake. And Buddy's response? Vex's mandibles clicked in what I'd learned was his version of a grin. He's designing a custom alarm system that simulates their homeworld's seismic activity. The ambassador is thrilled. That was Buddy in a nutshell. A cosmic people-pleaser with the resources to actually please people on a literally cosmic scale. Who knew that the galaxy's most feared predator was actually just an overachiever with anxiety about whether his guests were having a good time? Jake, Buddy's voice came through the comm again, I have a small concern. The booking system shows we're at full capacity for the next 18 months, but I keep receiving requests from species I haven't met yet. I worry I won't be able to provide adequate service. Buddy, you're already providing better service than most beings can even imagine. Trust me. But what if the Heliotropic Collective requires ultraviolet spectrum entertainment? What if the quantum dancers need probability-adjusted dance floors? What if, Buddy, I interrupted gently, breathe, or whatever it is you do instead of breathing? There was a pause, then that familiar cosmic purr. Thank you, Jake. I sometimes forget that not every problem requires immediate solution. Dr. Hartwell leaned over. He's doing much better with the anxiety. When we first started sessions, he was convinced that every ship that didn't immediately book a return visit meant he was a failure. And now he understands that sometimes people need time to process transformative experiences. His repeat booking rate is actually higher than most luxury resorts. Through the viewport, I watched Buddy carefully adjusting the position of the recreational asteroid, where a group of young Andromedans were learning to play something called null gravity catch with crystalline formations that glowed when touched. His massive form moved with the careful precision of someone who understood that his size meant every action had consequences. You know what the best part is, I said to no one in particular. The money, Zeph suggested. Because the money is really, really good. The diplomatic breakthrough, Vex offered. 3 former enemy species are now vacation buddies thanks to shared buddy experiences. The scientific discoveries, Dr. Hartwell added. Buddy's subspace manipulation abilities are rewriting physics textbooks. All of that I agreed. But mostly this Buddy's happy. For probably the first time in his very long life, he gets to be exactly what he always wanted to be. Which is, I watched as Buddy gently helped an elderly Centaurian couple arrange their personal belongings in their luxury accommodation, his massive claws handling their delicate possessions with the care of a master jeweler. Helpful, I said simply. As if he'd heard me, Buddy's voice came through the comm one more time. Jake, my friend, thank you for helping me find my purpose. Buddy, you found your purpose a long time ago. I just helped you find your voice. The creature's purr filled the resort, and every guest, regardless of species, felt a little more content, a little more understood, and a little more hopeful about the universe they shared. Zeph looked up from his scheduling tablet, all 3 eyes bright with something I'd never seen in them before, genuine contentment. So Jake, what's our next adventure? I grinned, watching as Buddy began his evening routine of personally checking on each guest's comfort. Well, there's this bounty posting about a nightmare of the void in the Andromeda sector. Apparently it keeps rearranging entire asteroid fields into geometric patterns. Oh no, Zeph groaned, but he was smiling. Not again. Hey, I said, settling back in my chair as Buddy's laughter created gentle gravitational waves throughout the resort. When has following up on ominous bounty postings ever led us astray? The answer, as the galaxy was slowly learning, was never. Sometimes the most feared monsters just needed someone to see them for who they really were. And sometimes the best adventures came from saying that looks like a big puppy when everyone else was running for their lives.